Hi folks, welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. Today I want to take a look at another paper that looks at what happens when knowledge workers start using LLMs for their day-to-day job tasks. This was published back in 2023. I came across this paper because it was cited in a book I recently read, Co-Intelligence, and it is actually peer-reviewed. It got published in Science. This is just the free PDF that I found online, which is a preprint. The setup for this experiment is pretty simple. They take about 400 college-educated professionals and give them a bunch of writing tasks that you would expect mid-level professionals to do. And then half of this group is allowed to use ChatGPT and the other half is not. And then they look at the difference. We'll look at the results in detail, but not to bury the lead. It's all pretty good news or bad news, depending on where you stand, in that the LLM did have noticeable positive effects on the quality of the work and the time it takes to complete that work. The writing tasks that were given to this population were pretty typical things like press releases, reports, analysis, emails, and so on, each consisting of 20 to 30-minute assignments. They were designed to be as close to the real tasks that these professionals would have to perform as part of their jobs. I did find one thing strange, which is that half the group, that's the treatment group, was allowed to use ChatGPT, and the control group was asked to use a LaTeX editor. Now that had me scratching my head because it's usually people writing very technical papers with a lot of math and technical notation that use LaTeX. So I'm really not sure why they chose this. But anyway, that's the group that did not use an LLM for their tasks. Okay, let's jump to the results. What did they find? First of all, the time taken for the tasks decreased for the people that used LLMs. And it decreased by 0.8 of a standard deviation. That's a pretty large effect. The average grade for the task, as evaluated by human graders for the control group, the one that used LLMs, increased by almost half a standard deviation. So those are pretty large effects. And if you dig down into the distribution of both time spent or the grade achieved on a task, you'll see that this effect happens throughout the distribution. Notice how the green curve over here for the group that used ChatGPT is leaning towards the left, towards lesser time used, whereas the control group is more of a standard, normal, bell-shaped curve. Same pattern for the grades. The green group with the LLMs has a noticeable rightward shift in their grades, in that their grades were improved. A second noticeable finding is how the AI helps lower performers much more than it does higher performers. So the setup for the experiment was that the first task is done without AI, and then the control group does the second task with AI. And here you can see the grades for the first and second task plotted for the control group and the treatment group. And you see how the people that got a low grade on the first task, that's without AI, were able to improve their grade a lot on the second task when they did use AI. Whereas the high performers saw a bit of an improvement, but not much. What this means is that AI is lifting up the lower parts of the performance curve a lot more than it is helping the higher performers. Now, this finding is consistent with a paper I've covered earlier on this channel by Ethan Mollick and others, which did a similar study in the setting of business consultants. A lot of the findings in this paper confirm the findings in that paper as well. So this is interesting confirmation. Another question that the authors looked at was, how does the time spent on various parts of this task change between the two groups? So if you look at a writing activity, They break it down into 3 steps: brainstorming, writing a rough draft, and then editing. And you can see how for the group that had access to an LLM, more of their time shifts towards editing. And most noticeably, the time spent writing a rough draft is almost half that as they would have used without an LLM. Another positive result is that those using an LLM reported much higher job satisfaction by about half of a standard deviation. So that was a quick look at a paper that studied how professionals that do a lot of writing for their job can benefit from an LLM like ChatGPT. They summarize it really well over here. It increases the output quality of low ability workers while reducing the time they spend on the task. And it allows high ability workers to maintain their quality while becoming significantly faster. So it is a positive effect throughout the spectrum. They have a lot of discussion in this paper about whether this is augmenting workers or replacing them. So read the full paper if you're interested in the details. But it looks like where the authors are landing is that these findings show that the LLM is substituting for what these professionals are doing rather than complementing it. What that means is that overall there is likely to be a decrease in the demand for these professionals. I hope you enjoyed that. If you like content like this, please like the video, consider subscribing, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much.